Hey, folks. It's been a long day. Okay, so I'm just gonna get to the chase. Hi. So I know in last week's episode I was gonna go over the more in depth on the platforms for our potential governors. Unfortunately, because June 2nd is right around the corner, I felt it was more important to pivot into a completely different direction and look into the other positions that are coming up on the ballot of other people that are currently running for other positions. Because if you do a quick ChatGPT search, Google search, whatever search engine you use, and put in Gavin Newsom's name, you'll find out that he was our lieutenant governor from 2011 to 2019. And if you ask why did his career end in 2019, well, that's when he became governor. And lieutenant governorship is kind of seen as a stepping stone to governor. So I can see the relation of how, oh, this man was our lieutenant governor. Maybe he did something right and he could be our governor. And that is unfortunately how I looked at it. And I made a horrible, horrible error in judgment. And now we're here. And apparently I'm not the only one who did that because he was elected governor. So here we go. So the lieutenant governor does a lot of things, actually. They influence more than you would think. They don't just act as the governor when the governor is absent or incapacitated or leaves the state for whatever reason. They also influence our university system. So don't believe me, they sit on a couple of boards that oversee the university budgets, the tuition decisions, campus expansions, leadership appointments, and long-term education policy. So if you don't like the way our universities have been going in terms of education policy, look no further than these boards. They sit on the State Lands Commission. So the commission oversees our coastal lands, our tide lands, offshore resources, our public waterfront properties, and our oil leases. It is our natural resources in California are very important. And the fact that our lieutenant governor has this influence explains why there are a lot of different policies that have come into effect that we're not going to necessarily agree with. So be very careful who you elect in office because the lieutenant governor has more power than you think. So the lieutenant governor influences environmental policy, coastal development, energy policies, port issues. They influence a lot of things. So it's very important who we elect. They also often participate in economic development. So listen in on this. They participate in economic development initiatives. Tourism promotion. Tourism is very, very important in California. Look at our state. International trade outreach and workforce development programs. So if you have issues with any of those things, these are the commissions and these are the boards that influence those decisions, and their job is to overlook all of those policies. So it is very essential who we elect as our lieutenant governor because they'll essentially be working with our future governor. And the lieutenant governor doesn't have to be a Republican if the governor is Republican, or Democrat if the governor is Democrat. It can be a Democrat Republican or a Republican Democrat, or in an ideal world, it could be a Republican Republican. So That's just my 2 cents. That's just my opinion. Okay, so I'm going to start with Tim Myers. Okay, he's a Democratic candidate. I'm going to do a fast-paced run through these because there's a lot of them, and I feel like it's important to highlight some, give a quick shout-out because I'm like, why are you running? I'm having those moments of reading these. So Tim Myers is a Democratic candidate. He is best known for being a co-founder and a former bassist of the band One Republic. So first of all, no shade to One Republic. I like One Republic. I have respect for musicians. It's cool that you're a bass player. But honestly, why are you running for lieutenant governor? I mean, why? Why? Okay, so he played from 2002 to 2007, 5 years, before moving into music production business ventures. And he later founded later founded a label and worked as a songwriter and producer for many artists that I love. He's worked with Kesha, Michelle Branch, and Haley Steinfeld. So it's really, really cool. His political background is more of an activist, and he describes himself as an outsider candidate rather than a career politician. He wants to lead Californians for climate change, which concerns me because we're already enforcing a very aggressive policy that it doesn't seem to be working and wasn't executed properly. I'm not against, this is my opinion, I'm not against climate change policies. I'm against poorly executed and planned climate change policies. That is what I'm against. He's running on an anti-Trump platform, which honestly, dude, why? I'm getting whiplash and fatigue from the anti-Trumpness of it all. Run on a platform, if you're going to run on something as lieutenant governor, run on California affordability, run on the issues of the state rather than just taking a very predictable route of I'm against this person, I'm against this agenda. Like, do you have your own ideas to bring to the table that would help improve life in California, that would actually be in of assistance when you sit on these boards? He refuses PAC money, which I respect. I respect that. You're refusing PAC money. I like that a lot. Overall, he wants to increase funding for arts and music programs, which doesn't surprise me given his background. You're a good bass player. I love a lot of One Republic songs. I am a fan. Respectfully, I will obviously not be voting for you for lieutenant governor because just based off your platform, it doesn't seem to be well suited. But I do have to give a shout out that you said you're rejecting PAC money, and I respect that. I respect that a lot. So good for you, dude. Good luck on your future endeavors. That's cool. Okay, next up is Skip Shelton. That's right. His name is Skip. He's a Republican candidate and a defense technology executive based in California. That's interesting. So he was a former national security counterterrorism professional, and he's in the tech industry leader. He's working on advanced computing and AI-related defense systems. Okay. His campaign emphasizes a couple of themes. Affordability. Here we go. Affordability. Reducing the cost of living in California, speed up housing construction, cut regulations, expand homeownership access. Great. Good. Public safety, stronger law enforcement support. Absolutely, sir. We need stronger law enforcement support. I'm going through this really fast. Innovation and economy. So he supports, no surprise here, he supports tech and startup growth and reduce business regulations. And he wants to keep California competitive in AI, which kind of concerns me given the data farms with AI. So I'm a little bit skeptical when it comes to that. He's generally pro-business, tech forward for obvious reasons, and law and order. So I respect that. I'm a little apprehensive about the AI of it, but overall, it's okay. He's not going the traditional route. I respect his background as a U.S. national security and counterterrorism roles. I feel like that would be very interesting to have that background and serve as a lieutenant governor. That would bring a whole different skill set in terms of public service. I have a little apprehension about the AI of it all, but bottom line overall, he looks like a pretty strong candidate, and plus his name is very memorable. So Mr. Skip Shelton. Let's see if you make it through June 2nd. Okay. Next up is Sean Collinson. So he has no party preference. He's independent. Finally, I see an independent candidate. Thank you. Okay. So I remember reading about him. This is really cool. His profession, he's a mediator and a trained hostage negotiator. His background is working in conflict resolution rather than traditional politics. Could that be more perfect for a person to have that type of background going into being lieutenant governor? Since we're so heavily based in locked into this two-party system of you need to choose a Republican or you need to choose a Democrat, it'd be really cool if an independent came in out of nowhere as a lieutenant governor, because I think it would be very, very sick to see someone who trained as a hostage, who trained as being a mediator and a hostage negotiator serve on these commissions. That would be so cool to see. He positions himself as someone who can bridge divides, which I love. He can solve problems through negotiating and compromise. I respect that. His platform themes are public safety, huge thing, cost of living, homelessness, and accountability of local governments and infrastructure. This person's very interesting. I kind of like this candidate. This is really cool. He wants transparency in state spending, and he wants to reduce recidivism, which is I butchered that word, but it's repeating offenses in the justice system. So he emphasizes that he's not a career politician. His experiences is in de-escalation and problem solving, and he wants to run outside of the major parties because he's arguing leadership should be more practical and less partisan, which I agree with. I agree with a lot of the time. Do I realistically think he has a shot? I don't know. It'd be really cool if he did. That'd be so cool. Okay, so in terms of public safety and crime reduction, since he doesn't have a party affiliation, I'm gonna dig a little deeper. He emphasizes de-escalation and prevention over punishment. Interesting. Okay. He supports improving coordination between law enforcement, mental health services, and community programs. I like that, actually. He focuses on reducing repeat offenses through intervention and rehabilitation. I say within reason. Within reason. He wants to prioritize addressing California's high housing costs. Okay, let's see. How are you going to do that? Okay. He supports increasing supply and improving local coordination on housing development. I like that. I like that. Okay. He calls for more accountability in homelessness spending and outcomes. Thank you. Government efficiency and accountability. He advocates for less bureaucratic delay in state programs. Wants clear performance tracking for public spending. Me both. We both want that. Okay. Emphasizes transparency and how funds are used at state and local levels. Let's go. Okay. He wants to focus on utility costs, rent, and everyday affordability. He supports policies aimed at reducing financial pressure on working families. Within reason. Within reason. I like his conflict resolution approach to governorship. That would be a very interesting thing to see. He's politically centrist to mildly right-leaning, but on certain issues, but he's definitely not clearly aligned with any political party. He frames his campaign as problem-solving rather than ideological, which is great. That would be really cool to see a hostage negotiator serving in a political position. That'd be really, really cool. So keep an eye out for Sean Collinson. He is on the ballot. Okay, next up is, and if I mispronounce your name, I am so sorry. I do not mean to. I'm trying to be very respectful of that. Okay, Rakesh Christian is a no party preference, another independent candidate. Here we go. Okay, cool. He is a business owner from Antioch, California. You don't hear a lot about Antioch. Based off of his campaign focus, he focuses on economic development, education reform, education budgeting, and school accountability. His background is looks like he has a degree in education. I will double check that. He himself is a business owner, and he's just a regular citizen who's observed problems in the California school system. So that's been very important to him. Let's see. His educational platform includes greater school accountability, reevaluating education spending and budgeting. Very nice. Improving student support and educational quality. Concern about administrative inefficiency in schools. So I respect that. Economic development. He wants to support business growth. I am all for that. Encourage job creation and improve the economic environment here in California. He wants greater accountability, government accountability, for better oversight of public institutions and reviewing how state funds are actually used. He is somewhat outside of the Democratic-Republican structure. He appears to appeal to voters frustrated with state leadership. I'm frustrated with state leadership. So his blueprint issue is not too far gone from others. He has no alignment to either Democratic or Republican Party. And he's not really clear on his stances as far as taxes go, or immigration or climate policy or abortion or social issues. So there's some concerns a little bit about that. He seems like a cool candidate. There's I don't really see that much separating him from other candidates. I like that he's a no party preference, but I can't really tell if he centrist like Mr. Collinson, I believe I was reviewing earlier. Yeah, Collinson. So we shall see with Rakesh Christensen. But I like the independents. Let's go with the independents. Okay, here we go. Oliver Ma is a democratic socialist. And that is all I had to say. No to socialism. Bye. And good luck on your future endeavors. Okay, next up is Michael Tubbs. Michael Tubbs. Okay, yes. He's a Democratic candidate. He gained national attention after becoming the youngest mayor in Stockton at 26 in 2016. So respect to being a very young mayor. This is what concerns me about his background. Tubbs was, I'm just going to call him by his full name, Michael Tubbs. He was appointed a special advisor on an economic mobility and opportunity council. He also, by our very own Governor Gavin Newsom. And I'm concerned when it comes to special advisors appointed by our current governor, because you don't know where their loyalties lie. And not only that, he also founded a lot of anti-poverty organizations, including EPIC, which is End Poverty in California. And they did a guaranteed income pilot program that launched while he was mayor in Stockton. And I don't believe in guaranteed income at all, because guaranteed income can be very problematic in terms of, I'm going to go on a tangent. Let's go. Okay, government income, guaranteed income policies. The ideology and the intent behind it is ideal. In an ideal world, yes, this would be a great idea. Unfortunately, this isn't sustainable. It's not sustainable to give somebody a regular check, a guaranteed check every month. That's not, it's like you have these questions of where does the money come from? Do our taxes increase? Middle class families are essentially suffering for this. It's not sustainable. And there's a lot of criticism behind it. I, for one, as a capitalist, I like capitalism, opposed to guaranteed income. I mean, it's not a sustainable solution. It's putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. And I'm sorry, the adhesive on that Band-Aid is gonna wear off and fall off. And there's only so many Band-Aids you can give a person, and they're still gonna be bleeding. It isn't sustainable for a person to just receive a check every month. There has to be some sort of contribution to society. There has to be money coming from all these practical questions behind guaranteed income. Because chances are, when it's a guaranteed income, you're either going to pay for it in the future through inflation. The taxpayer is going to pay for it, which leads to higher taxes. And we already have really high taxes in California. So by your very own political history, Mr. Michael Tubbs, you would be for guaranteed income. And I am not a supporter of that. And also, I'm not a supporter of someone who is appointed by Gavin Newsom. I don't trust it. So good luck to your future endeavors. And I hope that you have a successful career in your next position. But I hope it's not being our lieutenant governor. So next up is Mr. Josh Friday. Yay, he's a Democratic candidate. His current role is the Chief Service Officer of California. So in He leads statewide volunteer and civic service programs under, you guessed it, very own Governor Gavin Newsom. So I, for one, am not going to be electing anyone that was in Gavin Newsom's cabinet. I'm not. So if I see that you're appointed or if you're a chief service officer in his cabinet, I'm going to respectfully I'm not going to vote for you. I don't trust that political background. So I'm going to keep going. And call me pessimistic. I'm okay with it. Okay. Jace, I apologize for mispronouncing your name. Jason Lopez is a Democratic candidate. He describes himself as an outsider candidate. He's focused on affordability, government accountability, education, and expanding the role of lieutenant governor. I don't know how you would expand that, but that's interesting. He's a Democratic candidate. He wants to reduce the perception that the office is largely ceremonial. So I can see that. He appears to be very obviously pro-immigrant themes. He has critiques of some rhetoric on America First, California Always. His profile is a little less detailed than his other candidates. Overall, I just see a lot of frustration in terms of the current administration, which I can see why. For the most part, he doesn't really stand out. He has low name recognition. So all the respect to you, you have a bright future. This was my red flag. I remember him now. He worked on the 2020 Kamala Harris presidential campaign. You were a student at the time. You're in college. I get it. You're young. I'm sorry. Anyone who worked on Kamala Harris's campaign, I can't do it. I respect you as an individual. I respect your beliefs and your right to those beliefs. Unfortunately, I will not be voting for you because we disagree on some issues and personal beliefs. And I wish you all the best of luck in the future. He was also, just one real quick, he was also on the opposition of Gavin Newsom's recall. Do with that information what you will. He volunteered against the 2021 recall effort in targeting Gavin Newsom. I'll just leave it at that. Janelle Kelman, here we go. She's a Democratic candidate. She is the former mayor and city council member of, I apologize if I mispronounce this, Sausalito. She's positioning herself a little bit differently. She's centered on climate resilience, affordability, insurance reform, and education. Her background, she's an environmental lawyer and a climate risk specialist. She's focused on some pretty cool stuff, like through fire prevention reform. And I don't really align with your beliefs as a Democratic candidate. All the respect to you, and that before you get too gung-ho about her executive experience, Sausalito is a small city, and it's considered relatively wealthy, and it's governed by a city manager system rather than a mayoral system. So that's some criticisms behind her executive background. I can't say that because a lot of candidates that I particularly like don't have a strong executive background. So I can't hold that against her. I am kind of skeptical about the climate planning and environmental governance. Like I said, I'm not against climate change policies. I'm against poorly executed climate change policies or rushed or very, very dramatic climate change policies. So she's highlighted a lot of good issues. She has low name recognition, along with her other candidates. But this is a very, very crowded a lieutenant governorship race. There are a lot of candidates on the ballot that I was just going through. That was wow. Gloria Romero. Okay, she's a Republican candidate. What's interesting about her is that she's a former Democratic state legislator, and she represented East LA in California Assembly and Senate before switching to the Republican Party in 2024. So her switch is pretty recent. That's interesting. She served in the legislature for about 12 years. She was a former professor and education policy advocate. She positions herself as a reform-oriented Republican. So, okay, we'll see what happens. She's for education reform, so she wants to reduce remedial coursework requirements in higher education, kind of speed up graduation rates. She criticizes teachers' unions, which I don't blame her. And she supports school choice and school vouchers. So, government accountability. So, she often criticizes the state homelessness spending, which honestly don't blame, and government waste and fraud, which everyone should criticize despite your party affiliation. She broke with the Democrats on COVID-19 policies, gender identity issues, and some public safety approaches. So I respect the reason she broke off, because these are along the same reasons I broke off. I used to be a Democrat, and then I went independent. She says that she's independent minded, and she does have that legislative background. But again, like I said, it'd be really interesting to see someone completely out of left field who would be a lieutenant governor. Obviously, there's a lot of criticism because she left the Democratic Party, and especially recently. So there's that. See, she does have some accomplishments. So back in 2010, she helped pass California's Parent Empowerment Act, which allows parents at chronically underperforming public schools to petition for major changes, such as including replacing school leadership, converting schools to charter schools, and restructuring campuses. So I like that. That's really cool. She also pushed for community college reforms. So she advocated for workforce-oriented education programs and a couple of other things, which that's actually really cool. She's for juvenile justice reform and re-entry opportunities for formerly incarcerated people. I agree, but I do have apprehension, and I will tell you why. It would depend on the offense with the incarcerated person. So, for example, if they're in for a misdemeanor and they have that on the record. I don't have a background in criminal justice, so you can kind of go by this, past this part, if you will. But in my opinion, I feel like there should be some limitations in terms of what re-entry opportunities should be available to people who are formerly incarcerated, given their background and the degree of offense. So that's just my personal opinion. She just wants stricter accountability measures. Doesn't everybody want stricter accountability measures? I would love to have stricter accountability measures. Let's go stricter accountability measures. That is the end of part 1 of this. I'm going to wrap it up. It's a lot of candidates, you guys. Honestly, I'm getting whiplash, and I'm getting really tired looking through all these profiles. Essentially, this is a very crowded lieutenant governorship ticket. But again, I will tell you why it's so important that we be very selective with our lieutenant governor, because we never know. This could be the person's stepping stone to becoming our actual governor. So we got to sew in the information. We got to sew into the information, be very, very careful into who you elect now, because they may be running on a stronger position in the future. So stay tuned for part 2. I will be making some announcements concerning this podcast. I hope you liked it. I hope it wasn't too boring or it wasn't too overwhelming with a lot of information. Quick shout out, Sean Collison seems pretty cool. He's the independent, and I can't really get over the fact that he used to be a hostage negotiator. So obviously I'm going to look into more of the candidates that interest me a little bit more. But if you want me to look into the other candidates a little bit more, then just DM me, let me know. If I breezed through a candidate too much and you're like, wait, I wanted to hear more about that candidate, let me know. Otherwise, I will see you in part 2, and I will keep going through the list, because the list of candidates is not done. Hopefully you like this show. Hopefully I didn't go for too long into different candidates. And just let me know. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your time. I'm sorry if I was a little rambly at times. I'm still working through the kinks. I'm still learning how to do this. So thank you for your patience. And I will see you next week. Bye.